So, hello. I'm gonna talk about code sharing between client and server, even if your server is written in PHP and clients are written in JavaScript nowadays. But for this talk, I'll pretend that I'm a PHP developer now, like back in the days, and we'll try to show you how to how to um, how to integrate the Haxe generated PHP code into your PHP project. So let's pretend I'm a company. I'm a company of maybe 4 guys, a client developer, a server, PHP developer, and some weird Haxe developer. And another one, the last one, is a game designer who create ideas, and the 3 other guys implement them. So the game designer comes into the room and says, let's create a tic-tac-toe game, and we will be rich with this. The client developer, JavaScript developer, says, I need 2 sprints to do my job. And PHP developer says, I need 2 sprints too to implement all the database stuff, all the game logic on the server. So that looks like we need 2 sprints for every developer. And then Haxe developer says, I can take the game logic and implement it in 1 sprint, and in the meantime you guys can implement your database interaction or HTML rendering for 1 sprint too, and then I'll provide you with the game logic. So everybody gets to the job. Now I'm a Haxe developer. I've created. Yeah, I was thinking about that, but I don't have enough hats.
Anybody have some sunglasses?
So as a Haxe developer, I've implemented game logic, which is completely platform independent. It's just tic-tac-toe. It's just crosses and zeros everywhere. No databases, no nothing. Just place a cross or 0 and check if the game has been ended and who's the winner. So as a Haxe developer, I've spent my sprint to create the game logic, and then by the end of the sprint I produce the PHP files for the server guy and JavaScript files for the client side guy. Now let's generate for the server guy. I'll do that comment. Is it clearly seen? Yeah. Okay. So I'll generate it in the bin PHP folder, and it's done. Now I go to the folder. It's somewhere there. Yeah. Is it big enough?
Yes.
Okay. I have the PHP sources generated into the lib folder. Oh, but I generated it in as the root namespace. Now I want my Haxe generated sources to not interfere with any native PHP namespaces or classes, so I will add another compiler argument, PHP root prefix, as let it be hx. Okay. Now I take my sources and pass them to the PHP guy, who lives just right in this folder. Okay, while I'm passing the PHP sources to the PHP guy, let's pretend I'm that PHP guy and start the PHP development workflow. So this is the PHP Storm. Will increase something view to. Okay, so I have a simple application with a composer configuration file, which just loads all the classes from the source folder, and that's all. And I have the index PHP, which is the entry point to my server-side application. And that entry point runs my app, which basically is running, doing that PHP magic. So this is a pretty basic PHP application. Now I got sources from the Haxe guy, who ensures me he had created the PHP code for the game mechanics, game logic. Exit presentation mode. Let's actually pass the sources. I just opened the folder with PHP sources of the PHP guy and move the Haxe generated sources there. And I missed that. Yep, now it's there. And as a PHP guy, what do I do to what do I need to do to use those sources? Basically, I don't have to do anything special. I just start using them right away. Yep, it's too small, yeah?
Yeah.
I can zoom in.
I don't remember where's zoom in IntelliJ IDEA. Is it better?
Yes.
Okay, so I just start typing Haxe generated classes, and they are here. I create game. All of that code is generated, tic-tac-toe create game is generated from the Haxe sources. So while I was working as a PHP guy, I was working to implement database connections, HTTP requests handling. The Haxe guy just made the game logic, and now I just can use it. I don't need to implement the game logic on server side. And I've created a game. Now I can make a move as X player and place that X to the field coordinates, like for example 0, 0. That's like top left corner of the tic-tac-toe field. As you can see now, как будет трудности, забыл сказать. There's nothing sophisticated for code sharing from the PHP point of view. I just take the generated sources and I just use them. And it's not only I get the sources, it's also all the documentation is available, which was written by the Haxe guy. As a PHP as a PHP guy, I also write documentation for my code, but I mean that the generated code keeps all the original comments and doc blocks right from the Haxe code to the target platform code. Now I can accept a request from HTTP. As a PHP guy, I accept a HTTP request. For example, I got a player in the get parameters of the request, and I get X. and Y for the position, and I just make a move. So I don't need to re-implement game mechanic on the server. It's already implemented. And then I just check if game is finished at this point. And if it is, I do something. For example, I take a winner. Winner. No. And save it to the database. Nope. Okay. I guess I forgot to implement the database interaction. Okay, let's pretend it's here. I just save it. Some game ID and the winner, and it's done. Now that game designer guy comes into the room again and says that, hey, cash must flow, so let's make a premium tic-tac-toe game, and in the free game, players won't be able to win on the diagonal lines, but in the premium game, they could win on any line. So what usually it leads to some consequences. So the guy on the client side have to implement that new feature. The guy on the server side has to implement the feature. But in our great 4 guys company, we have a Haxe guy who just implement the feature in his magical Haxe code. For example, I have just a game implemented. Now I want it to be a free game. Free game. Let's see, what should we remove from free game? Diagonal lines. Yes. That's not what you get when you don't pay money. Okay. Now I create a premium game class, which apparently that's how things happens. If you're not into game dev, look closely. Premium game extends free game, and I override what I override? Make move. No? Public function make move. That was player X and Y, and then super make move player X Y, and then I just paste here the diagonal lines. Okay. Now we need a separate factory for that because it's whoop, premium game. And free. And that's basically that's all. What? Import? Oh yes. Let's do this. Okay. Now there's no free game. I know why, because I haven't renamed the game. It's not the game, it's the free game. Free, it's too free. Okay, I guess now I'm good. I regenerate PHP code. Oh, it's wonderful, it works. I pass the generated code to the PHP guy again. Rewrite everything. Whoop. Replace everything. And now I'm a PHP guy again. Sorry, I haven't used PHP Storm for a long time. Okay, and now what should I do on the server side to implement the new wonderful premium game feature? I just need to implement some flag in the database to know if a current user has paid for the premium feature. Get value like premium. Sorry. And if it has paid, we just create a premium game. Tic-tac-toe, create premium game. In other case, we create a free game. And that's all. I don't have to spend another sprint to implement the feature on the server side. It just works because it was generated from Haxe source. So it's really very easy to share the code between client and server when you have some logic implemented in Haxe. It's basically just drop the generated files into your PHP project and use them. And it's actually quite readable. Haxe generates quite readable PHP code. As you can see, I think in VS Code it would be easier to see. Yeah. For example, generated tic-tac. Oh, sure, I've removed it. Yes, now. As you can see, it generates quite human-readable, almost human-written PHP code, and you can go to various functions and see how things are going there. What else? Here's, for example, an interface generated from Haxe code. It looks like just like a normal PHP interface, which you would write by hands. So it's really easy. Now, as you can see, it's easy for the server guy. Let's check if it's easy for the client-side guy, for the JavaScript guy. I have to apologize. I haven't coded JavaScript for a long time, and almost never. I try to avoid it. Let's generate it somewhere in bin. JavaScript, and I want to look the I want the generated JavaScript to look more like modern JavaScript. Let's make it, yes. And the code is generated into, yeah, it's here. Now I will create, let's say I have a JavaScript application in which I interact with HTML, with DOM. I get some user input. For example, I have input for field coordinates where a user wants to place the X. Get document. Yeah. Q. I forgot. Get element by ID. Yeah. X. Some value, I guess. Node value. Let it be null value. And then for X. And then I need to call Haxe generated JavaScript, and let's pretend I import it into tic-tac-toe. Require now, how would I create a game? I would say var game create game. Yeah, as you can see, it even gives code hints. I make a move, make move as X player to X and Y. And that's pretty much it. That's all the integration needed on the client side. You just import the generated game logic and then you just use it. No complexities. These here, as you can see too. So I don't even know what to add more about the code sharing. We can go deeper, and I can tell you about passing values to the Haxe side and from the getting values from the Haxe side. But usually it's just you get your PHP value, whatever value you have, an array, an class, an instance of some type, and you just pass it as an argument to the Haxe generated PHP function. So that's basically all I wanted to say about code sharing on the PHP side.
How much calories do you save by not having to type all of this?
I don't even know. A lot of calories. As you can see, I'm pretty fit and I'm proud of it. That's because I reuse Haxe generated code. Any more questions?
Yeah, it would be interesting actually to see how do you pass native PHP values into Haxe, like, because as far as I know, PHP has kind of opinionated collection class.
Oh, you mean a native PHP array. Well, first of all, you can actually use Haxe array to pass into the Haxe code. For example, I'll just remove this. For example, let's pretend that tic-tac-toe create game accepts some collection. You can actually use Haxe array, let's call it HXA, and you can create it. And that's all. You push values there, 1 or 2, and then you just pass it to Haxe code. Or you can use native PHP arrays, like 1, 2, 3. But in this case, you have to define the special type on the Haxe side. I'll show you. View appearance. On the Haxe side, in this case, for example, if you want to accept native arrays, you have to type the variable as a native array. And that's all. The value is here. So you can, from now, you can use that value as you wish, as you would use it in PHP. No more questions? Yeah?
I didn't follow it, so I'm just wondering, what happened to your PHP to Haxe external generator thing?
Oh, it's still going.
Please repeat the question, because
Yeah. So Uri is asking what happened to the PHP external generator thing. It's still going. It's just I didn't get enough interest from Haxe users in it, so I'm doing it in spare time. It's not a lot nowadays, so it's going. It already can generate things. It's just lack some type hints generation. I guess I should push it to public now. No?
okay, it looks like there's
Thank you.
One question.
Yeah.
Is it creating like also like type properties like for PHP 7.4 or type hints for the constructors and so on? The
Type
PHP
type properties. What do you mean?
That you can just put the type of objects in the constructor, or if you have native types as properties in classes.
Oh yeah. So Haxe is a strictly typed language. So you have to not that you have to, but every value is typed. If you don't type hint a value, then the compiler tries its best to inference the value type. But for example, to define a property, I just write a field and it's an integer. And after that, compiler won't let me to assign a string to that field.
And how would that look like in the PHP code?
That would look, okay, let's generate it. Just remove the thing. PHP.
Yeah.
No, I have that code elimination. So as you can see, it's generated just like a normal PHP field, and it's type hinted in a kind of old PHP days when you place types in doc blocks. That's because Haxe aims to support PHP from 7.0. So you can generate completely typed code and use it from in kind of old development environments if you have one.
How would you do that nowadays in PHP?
Oh, I don't remember if typed properties are available in PHP. I don't think so. Well, 7.4. Okay, I think now it's something like this. Yes. Yeah.
Do you think it makes sense for Haxe to also generate this?
I don't think so, because there's no benefits at runtime as far as I know, and the PHP IDEs could figure out the property types from doc blocks.
Okay.
So if I open PHP Storm and use this code in PHP Storm, I get type hints. I get correct type hints.
I don't know. I haven't touched PHP in a while, but I think type hints in PHP to give you runtime type safety.
Yes.
Yeah. So it would be worth looking into.
It just looks you runtime safety in.
Like if you pass an int where a string is expected, you get an exception.
Yeah, you get a runtime exception. Yes, but if you are generating from Haxe, it doesn't make sense because Haxe does that check at compile time.
Yeah,
Makes sense for
PHP development.
You mean interoperation? For interoperation, yeah, that makes sense. I never thought of that.
Think about the other people.
Okay.
The other hand.
But the other people, I mean PHP developers, usually use tools like PHP Storm, and these tools always make your code red if you do things like assign.
Be a value from a JSON document.
Oh yeah.
Somebody opened an issue.
Are there typings for JavaScript too?
I think no. I think there are no type hints for JavaScript.
Actually, there is this library which I started, but I think Philip is working on right now. So it generates TypeScript definitions.
Oh
out of
yeah.
Haxe, code, and that can be picked up by something like VS Code to provide type hints.
Should I repeat it for the or
Yeah,
no?
you can repeat.
Oh, so Dan is actually saying that he created a tool which generates typed how is it called?
Declarations.
TypeScript TypeScript declaration files from Haxe generated JavaScript, so that tools like Visual Studio Code could also get type hints for the generated JavaScript.
Okay, no questions.
No questions. I can for the PHP people, I can speak more about the Haxe syntax, like short lambdas, like local functions, and no?
We're
Okay.
fine. We have a break now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Had the second slide. Yes. Now it's time.